Hi, everyone. Tracy Goldshinen here with Clarity Mediation. And today in Clarity Conversations, I've got with me Tammy Gruen. And I am so excited to have her. She's got such great information and advice for the financial side of divorce for folks. And she does it with a very gentle manner, which is so needed when you've got so many things going on in the world of divorce. She can be a real support. So, Tammy, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so thanks for having me on, Tracy. I am a financial advisor with Raymond James. My clients are independent women and busy couples. I do work with blended families as well. And I help them with comprehensive financial planning and socially responsible investing. For the purposes of this discussion, I am also a CDFA, which stands for Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. Yay. And I specialize in divorce and helping women during and after divorce. From everything from asset splits to helping out with the support calculations. And then post-divorce, I also can help out with budgeting and creating a financial plan for their new life.
That is so important.
It is so important. I was divorced myself in 2013, so I know how overwhelming it can be to start over. My mission is to partner with those that are also navigating through a divorce and help them out with the financial aspects of it so they feel like they don't have to go it alone.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. It is such a huge change going from married under one roof to on your own, independent in your own roof. And then if you have kids, you're still connected in that way financially. It's a lot of change and it brings up so many questions, and doing it smartly with all the best information can make a
That's right.
difference. So yeah, I love that you do not only the during divorce part work with people, but then the post-divorce to like get grounded securely.
That's right.
As you find your new way.
That's right.
That's a huge gift. Okay, so please share some financial tips, if you would, in your experience for folks that are going through divorce.
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest tips I would give folks is, particularly to the person that has not been involved in the finances during the marriage, they can be in a bit of a disadvantage during a divorce, not knowing where things are or how much money is in different places. So sometimes this is the female in the relationship, but not always. And what I would say is, as soon as you figure out that you would like to file, as early as possible would be the time to start gathering up statements for bank accounts, statements for any financial institution, credit card statements, and all of those important documents that, you may or may not know where those are, or how much is in the accounts would be a great way to kind of quickly get up to speed, because that can, that definitely puts a person at a disadvantage. The other thing that I tell folks is it's never too soon to start thinking about putting together a budget. And I know that budgeting creates a lot of anxiety for folks, which is why I like to work with my clients to create a very stress-free budgeting activity. But budgeting during the divorce process and then also afterward is pretty critical, because if you don't get a handle on your expenses during the process, some folks get surprised by what it's like post-divorce when you have, only one income and, double the bills. So
yes, yeah, it's really true. One of the first things I have my clients do is start working on exactly that. I give them worksheets to start filling out. And, I try to make it as stress-free as possible by saying things like, don't do it all in one sitting and take your time, do it a piece at a time, and gather those statements so that you've got them in front of you. And then you can just pop those numbers in there to see what it is. But the budgeting piece, most people don't do that regularly. And now you've got in divorce, you've got to figure out what do we currently spend each month on things or each year on things, and then what's it going to look like when we're under two roofs. So you've got to do
Right.
some future casting, which can be kind of tricky, but so valuable. So no surprises. You know exactly what you're signing up for.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so then if that's the best way to do it, pulling it all together, looking at your information and coming up with a plan, what are some of the pitfalls that folks might fall into when they're looking at this?
So one of the things that I know is one of the biggest decisions that most people have is whether to keep the marital home. And there's a lot of emotion tied into that. But it's also good to try and look at it from a very practical perspective, decide if you really can afford to keep the marital home in your post-divorce life. And again, thinking about tax impacts down the road. When you've got a joint tax filing, there's a different implication as when you've got a single tax filing. And when you go to sell that marital home in the future, there can be different tax impacts related to that. It's always best to work with a CPA to verify, because everybody's tax life is a little different. But that is one thing that folks should consider when they're thinking about keeping the marital home. The other pitfall that I see is folks not really understanding the implications of retirement versus more savings style assets or brokerage assets. Mm-hmm. Retirement assets are locked up for a period of time, and there are short-term and long-term implications of taking withdrawals out of those assets versus something that might be a little more liquid, like a savings account or brokerage account. Another thing that we talked about budgeting, and just to bring it full circle, making sure that you plan ahead for the time frame when alimony and child support end. A lot of folks will get used to living off of a certain amount of income and taking into account alimony and child support, and many times those don't last forever, particularly with child support. They definitely don't last forever. So budgeting becomes very key for that period of time and planning ahead for that time when that stream of income ends, which is pretty key. And then the last tip I'll give is waiting to make major financial decisions post-divorce. So once you've gone through all of the negotiations and you're out the other side of your divorce, just absorbing all of that and trying to get into your new life before making huge decisions about your career or, moving to a new town or making a big financial purchase. The first year can be pretty stressful and just trying to get back into a new rhythm. And I usually counsel folks to wait and try to settle in before they make a big financial purchase.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good advice. So getting used to the new money flow, whatever you're receiving or earning, especially if you have to now go get a new job, what that really looks like and feels like. And then for the person paying support or alimony, getting used to what that really feels like.
That's right.
And just living with that for a year or so before a major financial decision. That's really important. That's good. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's why I send people to you, because you're there after I'm gone to help guide them beyond. That's wonderful.
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned CPA a minute ago, and it reminded me that there's all these designations out there and different roles professionals play on the money front. And it can be really confusing to a non-financial professional person who doesn't know the difference between a CPA or a bookkeeper or an accountant or a CFO, and all of that sort of gets jumbled together for us pedestrians, if you will. So would you mind sharing what some of those designations stand for and who a person going through divorce might go to for any different scenario or situation or question they have?
Sure. Yeah, I think we did talk about a CPA it's important when you go through divorce to understand the tax implications of some of the decisions that you're making. And after you're divorced, you'll file differently. Whereas you filed married, filing jointly, you'll need to file a different designation, whether it's head of household or single. And a CPA can help you with the implications of that. Particularly a CPA, I think, is important. A person can have an EA designation, which is also a tax professional designation, and they can help as well. But I find that at least the first few years, you may want to make sure that you have a CPA until you can kind of get, again, into the rhythm of what your new life is going to look like. During a divorce, if there are significant assets, such as a business or commercial buildings, it's very important that you have a valuation professional come in and assess that. A CPA or a CDFA can only go so far with your finances. And when it really comes to something more complicated, like a private business, having that valuation professional in to help out coming up with numbers in order to split the estate is very important. So, and I mentioned earlier, I'm a CDFA, which stands for Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. I do help attorneys with the numbers, splitting assets, creating scenarios for that, as well as feeding into the support calculation process, alimony and child support. I can take a look at the DERFA and help folks try to figure out, is there information missing? Is there information that's duplicated? So I do a lot of work around that. And also,
if you explain what that is for folks.
The DERFA is the
domestic relations financial affidavit.
See, you put me on the spot, right? And then I couldn't come up with yes, exactly.
DFRA.
So, DFRA. So the DERFA is the document, and during the divorce process of how they gather up all of the financial information for your current financial life. So, both parties that are filing for divorce will put together a DERFA, and then you'll need to look at them together to make sure that everything makes sense and you don't have duplications or missing information.
Yes.
That can be kind of daunting. And so having, somebody in there like a CDFA that can help you take a look at the information to make sure it's complete is pretty key. And I can also help out with a quadro, which is a qualified domestic relations order. And that is used in situations such as when one person has either a pension or a 401k, and that has to be split between both parties. You'll use a quadro in order to do that. If you have an IRA, it's a different process. Retirement funds can be a little trickier, so having someone with a CDFA designation to help out with those splits is pretty key.
Agreed.
So there's also insurance brokers, which can be very helpful. I've done some referrals to some of my clients over to insurance brokers post-divorce. Many times, one spouse will have to find another source for insurance, and that can be a little tricky, the process for figuring that out. And having a broker who's a bit agnostic as to which insurance company to go with can find you the best deal.
Yeah.
And then mortgage brokers a lot of times can also help with the marital home if you decide to keep it and it needs to be refinanced post-divorce. Helping out with that process. There can be some complications around applying for a refinance that mortgage brokers, who are involved in specialize in divorce can help out unwind that situation.
Yes, those are all so helpful. And it's amazing to me that the industries, particularly like mortgage lenders and appraisers, they have now, and I don't really know when this happened, but I love that it exists, a divorce designation. So they're looking at your lending potential and your house value from a very neutral place because you're going through a divorce and there's so many variables in play. They can look at it through that lens. And it's just so valuable, so valuable.
Yes.
So make smart decisions.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you for all that. There's so many out there. Folks don't know, they think, well, I'll just call an attorney and they'll do it all.
Right.
But even, the attorneys are referring out to the professionals that you mentioned. I, as a mediator, I'm referring out to those same professionals so that our clients really get the best information about what they've got and what they should do with it.
It really takes a team. It really takes a team.
I think so. Okay, so you are a CDFA. We know that. What all do you offer? That's not the only thing you do.
In addition to being a CDFA, I also offer comprehensive financial planning, which includes college planning as well as retirement planning. Like I mentioned earlier, I can help clients with a pain-free process for creating a budget. It's a pretty valuable tool. I find that it's a lot easier for my clients to figure out how to save when they have a handle on where their spending is. So that a lot of times is where I start the process. Of course, when we build out the budget, then that can feed into building out a long-term financial plan. And folks can have some comfort in knowing that, longer term, they're going to be okay, that they're going to land somewhere. And here are some things that they can do to, to trying to help that process of getting to retirement or financial independence or whatever it is that their goals are. As I mentioned, as a CDFA during the divorce negotiations, I do a lot of scenarios because there's multiple outcomes that you can come up with. Asset splits can be kind of complicated and their tax implications. So I do a lot of work around making sure that splits are equitable. It's not always equal. There's just being equal and being equitable. Yep. And the budget, like I mentioned, can also feed into a lot of those support calculations, such as alimony and child support.
Yes, all true. Okay, so if someone needs your services, how best to reach you? How can folks find you?
Yes, so I have a virtual business. My clients are all over the East Coast currently. My actual physical office is in Alpharetta, Georgia. I have clients down in Atlanta, as well as Florida, North Carolina, and Virginia, and I'm happy to do meetings over Zoom. My website is, it's www.raymondjames.com/Tammy Gruen, TammyGruen, / and all of my email and phone number information is out there as well. My email is very simply my first name and last name, tammy.gruen@raymondjames.com. I'm also out on LinkedIn under Gruen Financial Planning. So definitely look me up. I like to post almost daily important tips and information about the stock market. And every once in a while, a yoga article or what's the best restaurant in Atlanta. So try to spread
real
the
life,
love.
other real life stuff.
Life, weekend life.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's great. Thank you for that. Thank you for all that information. So helpful. And I just want to repeat your point about that it takes a team. Essentially, I want folks to know that to divorce well, so that you can end in a place that is okay financially, bring in that team, get all the information and ask all the questions so that you have a complete picture with the different scenarios. So you can decide what direction you want to go in. And it's just so much more empowering to be able to make those decisions from an information place. So
that's right.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. All right.